Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to take a look at some opening repertoires, specifically the Dutch defense and what to do against it. So in this case, this is how the moves are going to go. Play a queen's pawn opening, and then our opponent will play this kind of mysterious move f5, but it does something reasonable. It tries to take away some of the center squares that white would normally try to take here. So now it seems like they can't really play e4. So most commonly, you'll see people playing like c4, knight f6, and yada yada. We could have some different moves here. There's a couple different things that can be done, and that's all fine and good. But a nice way to give your opponent a surprise here that I would recommend would be the Staunton Gambit. And the Staunton Gambit starts with e4. So we can just immediately come out with e4 anyway, which looks really strange. But the point is that now we can develop some of our pieces more easily, and also we have this diagonal that's exposed from the black king, so this can actually result in some good things. So knight c3. The most common move here for black, if people that have not come across this before, would be something like d5, and this is already a mistake. So this type of opening is really good because there's not really any risk for white. They can actually get this pawn back, and there's not really much that black can do about it. So the only real good thing that black could get out of this opening is maybe some equality, or pretty close to that, but they'd have to know their stuff. So that's the reason why this is such a great opening. You can get some easy wins. So if you had the white pieces here, what would you do? Pause the video and figure it out. Okay, so if you found queen h5, then good job. So you can recover the pawn this way, and there's actually some even more bad news for black. After, for example, g6, pretty much the only move, then we can come in, gobble up this pawn, and then black is left with some doubled and isolated pawns. So black is really going to lose more material here, and this doesn't really work. For example, queen takes d5, knight takes d5. Now they just have more problems, and it's actually very difficult to handle because they can't play any of these normal moves that would allow them to mitigate this risk. So after, for example, king d8, then white could continue like bishop f4, and this is still just absolutely no fun for black. This is just a really, really, really bad position for black. So one thing to note, it's quite a strong way to go about this. Let's take a look and see if our opponent plays something different. So for example, knight c3, knight f6. Then what I would recommend is bishop g5. So one of your opponents might play either this move or this move, and if we have the knight f6 line, if now they go d5, then again, this is just like not that great for black. So, for example, bishop captures f6, g captures f6 would just lead to a really bad position for black again. King e8, probably just come back, and yeah, there's a hanging pawn here. White has better development, they can castle, black's king can't castle. This is just a really bad position for black, even though they've really they're about to lose one pawn. If black plays something else, this is more reasonable, but still white is doing perfectly fine here. So for example, queen h5, g6, queen takes d5 again, and then again, black is going to be losing some more material. They have a lot of threats. It's really not fun to do anything against this. For example, again, queen takes d5, knight takes d5, and then white is going to pick up a lot of pawns here. So most likely they need to address this threat. This is the biggest threat, threatening to fork. So for example, king d8 again. Then we can just start gobbling up some pawns, and we can try to defend this, but still white has quite a nice advantage. So after even g4, We could have perhaps like bishop e6, and then just gobbling up this guy. We can meet all these threats pretty much however we like. It's not really a big deal here. And then white should definitely be okay. So these are some interesting ideas. Playing the Staunton Gambit against the Dutch defense. Okay, so those are two interesting variations. Now somewhat shifting gears. If you're an English player and you play c4, and then your opponent sort of plays this similar opening with f5, we can still give our opponent quite a nasty surprise, again with this theme of e4. So this opening is really uncommon, and you won't see many people play it, but I actually highly recommend this opening because it's basically Frum's Gambit in reverse, where white has an extra tempo. So if you've ever seen Frum's Gambit before, it was employed by Anthony Miles, and it looks something like this, where white is playing bird's opening, and then black will play e5 here, which looks really strange, but the point is that after take, bishop takes, then black is eyeing down some very suspicious looking diagonals. So for example, they could land themselves in trouble really quickly. For example, h3 trying to take away g4. Pause the video and figure out what you would do with the black pieces. Okay, so I'm not giving you guys much time for this one, but that's because it should be pretty easy. Just giving the checkmate right here. So clearly white has to play somewhat accurately so as to not get checkmated in a pretty ridiculous fashion. So that's the reason behind c4, f5, e4. So we're playing something really similar, except for we have this extra temp, which doesn't seem totally useful, admittedly, but it is still controlling a center square, so this really can't be bad at all for white. So after a capture, d3, capture, bishop captures, then we don't have necessarily a winning position outright, but most likely your opponent does not know how to play this at all, so you should have a decent practical advantage, because your opponent should not know what the heck to do here. So right off the bat, if black plays something kind of ridiculous like knight c6, then this is totally losing. Pause the video and figure out what to do with the white pieces. Okay, so if you found queen h5, then good job. You could do this with some extra style points and sacrifice your queen, and then just deliver the checkmate with the bishop. So clearly, right off the bat, this gambit introduces some very big threats. So that's the reason why black should play knight f6. And then, just like you saw in the video previously, when black was pushing their g-pawn, this time white will push their g-pawn. And it looks it looks very crude and it looks very strange, but this is actually really effective, especially in lower time controls. So again, this is not safe because it's going to allow checkmate. So most commonly black could try something like g6, they can try other moves, but yeah, this could be a common response. And from there, you have a game. You can try to kick the knight, you can try to push your h, and try to just trade off here. So lots and lots of opportunities for white. You could go for a slower idea of trying to develop your queen side and then castle queen side, but there's a lot of opportunities, but I wanted to keep this video relatively short, so we'll just leave it at that. So if you did enjoy the video or learn something new, then please do me a favor and hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed already, please consider doing so. I will catch you guys in the next one. So long for now.